Okay, so this tutorial is going to cover the production of the axonometric and a little brief perspective here in the background of our serpentine wall. So this is obviously, I'm showing you guys the final product, and then I'm going to go back and show you just like I did in the previous demonstration here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to hop back into Rhino, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do a couple of things. First off, we're going to go into our view here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the location here, and I've gone ahead and applied a material here. I've turned it cyan, the same color as the layer. And if I scroll down here, I made this 87% transparent. I eyeballed that somewhere around 90 is essentially what you're going to want to do with that. And so you can see how the material is starting to render out in here. Then I've also taken in each one of my meshes for this. I've gone ahead and also applied the same material just to be consistent as I did in the previous diagram, the chartreuse color, so that I can go ahead and render that out. When we go through here, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just delete those because we need those in the next step. You're going to go ahead and just take this perspective in here and utilizing the same render properties as we did in the previous guy. You're going to turn on the skylight and leave a transparent background. All of this stuff should be the same, so you should be able to just pause at this point and then copy all this information down to get it set up right. And at this point you're going to hit render. Now I'm not actually going to do, well, I'll do this and I'll talk through it, but then I'll go ahead and cancel this out. Now this is going to take some time to render this out, probably 20 or 30 minutes. And you can see that I didn't turn on my skylight here, so hit OK. So this is going to take a significant amount of time to actually get this to render out properly. Probably about 30 or 40 minutes. So when you guys do this, you're actually probably going to sit down and say you're going to walk away from this for a little bit. But we'll let this run just long enough so you guys get a clear sense of what it is that we're doing here. And it's actually going a little bit faster than it did while I was running this previously. So. But again, 1600 by 1200 pixels, and we can get a sense here. You can see the image starting to emerge, and you guys can match the graphics to what it is that I'm doing based on the materials that I've applied. I haven't done anything particularly fancy. Rhino Render isn't really well endowed to do very much of this. What you will need to, and you can see here, is telling you it's going to take about 30 minutes to do this. So you can either go grab a cup of coffee, go have lunch while this is rendering out. What you're going to then do is save this as a PNG. That's very important that you save it as a PNG because we created a semi-transparent material in here, and when we actually are doing that, that's going to translate when we actually utilize this in Illustrator. It'll maintain that transparency. So that's going to be something really important to pay attention to as you guys go through this and are setting up stuff. Okay. So again, 30 minutes. I'm not going to make you guys sit and watch this. It's like watching grass grow, so we'll go ahead and close that down. And I'll show you what ultimately renders out. So, and this should be roughly what it looks like when you guys pull this up. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and close that down, and then we're ready to do the second component of this. And I'll go ahead and get back into my. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and set up a perspective here, and I've just rendered it out, zooming in somewhere on my wall. I then went ahead and placed a couple of lights. These are Omni lights. You get them from clicking and holding right here, or point lights. These will project light in all directions. And then I placed a couple of them on plan, 3 of them in plan, and then I pulled those up. If we rotate around here, you can see that I pulled this up off the ground, so we're actually getting some light at around eye level for the wall. Okay, so about 6 feet up in the air. Then you can come in here, and we can, and we'll get some quick renders of this. And we can utilize that in the backdrop here. Oh, and I'm going to have to change my. From here, we're going to go ahead and simplify this so you guys don't have to spend hours and hours and hours rendering out some relatively craptacular renderings in here. So we'll go ahead and turn off the skylight because we don't want that on. So since we're going to be utilizing just the lights to actually light the model here. ahead, and we will wait for this because this will take a minute and a half. And you can see because I'm utilizing a couple different lights, I'm getting a little bit more dynamic shadows being cast across this, which is really, really nice when we're starting to get into some of the rendering stuff in here. Okay. Alright, and while that's going ahead and rendering out, we'll go ahead and hop in here. And now we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to close this down and sure, we'll save it. So we don't lose what I showed you guys, like I've done in previous demonstrations of this project. And here's an example here. Once your computer is rendering, like I explained in class, this is taking up all of the RAM on your computer. So when you're trying to do other options, use other tools, it's going to run significantly slower as we go through this. So you can see that that's really clear. Even in my mouse updating is running really slowly. So go ahead and hit OK. And this is almost done. So, and this is not like it is in when we're running script, where if you minimize it, it saves makes it run faster. This is just going to run relatively slow all the way across the board. Okay, and it's completed. So go ahead and you can dial in with the exposure if you think that you need to, and we'll call this render 2. Save. We'll go ahead and close that down. Alright, now we should have a little bit more horsepower to do these diagrams. So I'm going to hit Control O, and I'm going to come down and find my rendering, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy up as well. We'll zoom out. I'm just going to take this and cut it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a couple of layers here. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move this. This guy's going to be basically the subject matter of this. I'm going to move this up. And as you guys saw in the previous thing I had, the rendering is going to be at the back. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just scale this down until it fits in our window. Oops. And I'll do the same thing with this. Just close. Okay, so we have this guy. And I'll just turn this layer off for now while I get this guy going. Okay, so this is going to be the backdrop to our image here. We're going to go ahead and expand that. Holding Shift here. Okay, so we get this guy sitting on here, and we're going to go ahead and have this guy sitting on the back of our image here. So we're going to just immediately drop the opacity on this down to about 30%. So that way it's a little bit light, 40%. There, 50. That looks about right for what we're going to want to do. So when we turn on this layer now, you can see that we actually have this guy sitting on top of it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lock that back layer, and I'm going to go ahead and take this and now scale this down slightly so we can get a sense and see how these things start to relate to each other. And you can see that the transparency between the PNG was actually maintained through the material. So we actually have this nice little footprint here, but it's not really as dark as we would like it to be. It's making it difficult to start to see how that's going to work. So we're going to, on our other layer here, we're going to go ahead and lock that into place, and I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and we're going to actually fix that up here. Now, once you draw the rectangle, utilizing this tool over here, the direct select tool, by pressing A, we can go ahead and we can grab anchors. When you scroll over and you see it says anchor there, you can grab those anchors and maneuver those into place. And I wasn't as precise as I should have been probably in some of the other guys here. Then I can start to maneuver and position that over there. Okay, and because this is an axon, this is a symmetrical geometry, so I'm going to get Control C and Control V, and I'll just rotate that around 180 degrees, and grab the anchor, move it into place, and you'll note that I'm back onto the regular selection tool V when I'm doing that. So that's how these two tools can work together in concert with each other. And then we can go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and group those together now that they're doing what I want. And you can see that then we actually can start to see that. But then I'm going to go ahead and just drop the opacity on this as well, like 60 or 70%. Right. And then we can really start to see this sort of nice axonometric diagram sitting on top of the rendered perspective. And again, we can go in here, edit the artboards, crop this down. All right, and then we're ready to save, and that's we can go ahead and hit Control Shift Save As. You can, again, we want to save this as our axon diagram, so we'll save that. Okay, and then go File. We're going to export the image. PNG, or we can just do we'll do JPEG just because we'll get a really nice. Say we're wanting to print out boards, which is something you guys will eventually end up doing. We'll say this is a JPEG for that. So 300 DPI baseline standard, and then we can do CM1K if we're actually going to be printing this. But we'll go ahead and produce things in an alternate way so we can show more in these videos. All right, and we come over here. And there's our graphic.